Vibe. Hey, everyone. Woo, this is loud. Don't quite know how to turn it down. How's it going? Can I get some claps? Yeah, it's so nice to see you. That would be funny if I tripped because we kind of need some comedy up in here. This is one of those rooms where when you sit far apart, it looks like there's 5 people in here, but we are being nice and not going to force you to make friends and sit close together. My name is Patricia Dugan. I'm with Postman. I flew in from San Francisco, and it is such a pleasure to be here tonight and super grateful for all of you joining us here. Before we get started, I want to take a moment and just acknowledge that we are very blessed to be at Capital Factory. And as many of you may know, we recently lost Josh Baer, the CEO and co-founder of Capital Factory, in a tragic plane crash about 2 weeks ago. So if you'd please join me in just saying, "Hear, hear, Josh," to respect the fact that we are in his home and we get to have an event here. So hear, hear, Josh, here's to you. Thank you. Now, no graceful way but to say, in spirit of Josh, we're going to have an Agents and APIs developer meetup tonight. Thank you to Austinites for joining us. I run our developer marketing and events at Postman. If you're on Twitter, you can find me there. We are doing these all around the globe: New York, LA, Boston, Stockholm, Bangalore, Milan, Cairo, and more. If you're interested in keeping an eye on where we'll be so you and your teammates can join us, please subscribe to our Luma. Now, folks up front, I will come tell you to be quiet. Tonight, we have a beautiful panel, or we have a nice lineup of speakers. We're going to hear from Talia Cohan, my colleague. She flew in from LA, and she's at Postman. Then we have Jacob Rothfuss up here. He's with LibLab. That is an Austin company, by the way. We have David R. from Coder, woo, wherever you are. Okay, and Clement Minshev from Posthog, yay, also Austin's finest. So super excited again for tonight, and we'll go ahead and call Talia up and get started. And by the way, each of these will have Q&A time, so collect your questions, please. And this needs to be plugged in.
Oh, is this on the wrong unit?
And this needs to be plugged in.
Oh, okay. I promise I'm like a well-known speaker, I know what I'm doing. I did this demo 2 hours ago, and it's funny because I did it for my team at Postman, and it did not work because, agents and AI. But maybe it'll work today, right now. Yeah, we pray to the AI gods here. 1 second as I figure this out. Okay, that's good. All right, bear with me, guys. Full screen, full screen. Can anyone see which one it is? Down? That one? I got LASIK. This should be, I should be able to see that. Okay, just need there it is. Okay, hi guys, I'm Talia. I'm on the Postman team. Yeah, Postman. Has everyone here used Postman? Just a show of hands? Yeah, all right. Who has not used Postman? Okay, get out. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so the reason we're here today is we're going to talk about something that's the most important part of AI, and that's context. So everyone knows that every single AI agent can write code. You can ask Claude, ChatGPT, you can ask Copilot, ask any AI agent to create any component. You can ask it to create a Terraform module, like any code generation, like any AI agent is going to do that for you, and it's going to do it well. Like it's a pretty common thing, right? But it turns out that writing code was never the hard part of software engineering. The hard part is context, and it's understanding, if I make this change, what else needs to change as a result of that? Like, what are the dependencies of this change? Like, who owns this? Like, who do I have to talk to about this? And so the interesting thing is that the bottleneck with AI coding tools isn't really the model anymore, right? Like, the models are pretty good at fixing things and writing code, but the challenge that we face is that software is not just these isolated files. Like, your file system, like, that's not the extent of your system, right? And a change in one place could affect APIs and services in another place, or maybe in another repo, or it's just somewhere else. So the next phase of AI engineering is about giving these tools the right context. So don't get me wrong, did I go overboard on the memes? I don't know. I didn't get this approved by the Postman team, so we'll see. Yeah, more, right? So a coding assistant can help you make a change, but an engineering partner needs to understand the entire system, like what touches this, what depends on it, what's the downstream impact. So the goal isn't just faster code generation, it's giving AI enough context to reason about the entire system the way that an actual engineer does. So drum roll, please. Thank you. Postman just launched its AI engineer. And the reason the AI engineer is different from all these other AI agents is that it's not just looking at your file system, this prompt, like this one aspect of your application. It has context of your entire API ecosystem through what we call the context graph, which is a continuously updated map of all of your APIs and services. So instead of asking your AI agent to write code and hope that it understands the bigger picture, you can give the AI engineer a goal, and it's going to investigate your entire system because it has that context. And so it can help with a lot of things that normally require an AI engineer to spend hours building context, like reviewing system designs, validating API contracts, doing all the things. And so the goal is to give engineers an agent that understands the entire system, not just the syntax of the code. And so through the context graph, you have this map of all of the artifacts, everything that your API touches. So it can see, like, this endpoint belongs to this service, and this contract is consumed by these applications, and these changes are going to affect these workflows. And this graph is what allows the AI engineer to navigate your system instead of just these random, like, one-off decisions that could break your APIs. So the goal is to turn all of that fragmented engineering knowledge into something that's discoverable, queryable, and actionable. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, oh God, it's so small. Okay, I can do this. Where's Slack? So one of the ways that we call the AI engineer is through Slack. And more invocation methods are coming. Guys, what is happening? Why is this? Can you guys read that? I can't. Okay. 1 second. One's there. Almost. Is that better? Okay. Good enough. Okay. So I have this. Let me pull up Postman. Of course, it's on the wrong screen. Let's zoom in. Can I zoom into Postman? Oh, look at that. Okay, so I have this request. I'm not going to read it from there because I can't. I have the request, and in the response schema, you can see in line 10, I just want to change the response schema. So instead of saying ID, I want it to say employee ID. So just changing, like, a basic, like, update to a response schema. And the request is create employee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Slack, and I'm going to call the AI agent, and I'm going to say, You know what? I did this earlier, so I'm just going to copy and paste it because can't see what I'm can't see what I'm doing here. Repo, nope, not that one. This one. Lord. Okay. All right. So I'm telling it, update the response schema of the create employee request to use employee ID instead of ID. And let's follow along. There it goes. Can I zoom in? Okay, so you'll notice the first thing it does is it queries the context graph. And one of these tool calls is going to do that. Where is it? I'm going to fast forward just for the sake of time. I'm going to open the task that I ran earlier. So the first thing it does is it queries the context graph, and it's going to read the request, and then it's going to go through the knowledge base, which is the context graph. And what it did is it basically just made the change. So if I view the pull request, it'll show me that this update to the response schema. Let's look at files changed, and we can see that update was here. It updated that, and I think this is a test. Yep, that's a test. So it updated the name in a test. Great. And so that was merged, and I just merged it. So now this is where this really comes into play, is if I go back to Slack and I say, let's go back, and I'm going to say, I need the repo. I'm not going to type that all out again. Okay, I just updated the response schema of the create employee request. What else needs to be updated? What are the downstream dependencies? Okay. Let's see what it says. I like the background music. That's nice. No, I like it. It's like loading, you know? So again, it's querying the context graph. It'll take a second. Yeah, it's an extension. Yeah. No, it's all good. I should be able to read this. Got to call my doctor. Okay. So it's looking through the request in the collection. It's looking through the open API spec. Yeah. Continuously, so with every change. Yeah. The question was, how often is the context graph updated? And it's continuously. Yes. Oh, yeah. Or I can just repeat the question, too. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so the question is, if you make a change to your API, does it automatically update your documentation? So the answer is that feature is coming. That would be like an autonomous agent where like if you make a change, like something else happens like autonomously. That is coming. But right now you would have to do it manually in a separate request, just like we're doing now. Like we made a change and then said like what else has to be updated, and like I don't want to. I mean, docs will be one of the things I'm not going to spoil it for you, but so yes, it will be coming soon in the same request, but right now it has to be separate. And okay, it looks like it's finishing up. Let's just open this PR once it is done. Okay, so if we go through what this says, it says, Okay, so these are the dependencies. So we have the open API spec, and just keep in mind, the only thing that we updated was the response schema, one line of the response schema, right? Like that was the only thing that we updated. So because of that one change, we have to update the open API spec, the backend implementation. We have to update the V2 collection, the remaining 5 employee requests, all hard code something, so those need to be updated. We also have to update payroll requests, which were in a separate repo. They weren't in the same repo. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 payroll requests that need to get updated. What else? The collection variable declaration and the response examples. What is this? The V1 collections create employee requests may also have a response example that should be updated. So look, all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 artifacts have to be updated because of this like one tiny change. Can you imagine if you had like a migration or a refactor or like some huge change that you had to make? Like, how do you know that you're making the right updates in all the right places, you know? So this is something that you can use for all those big updates. You can use it for, you know, small updates, but I like the fact that like you can see this one thing can break in so many places and you would never know. I would never think to like update payroll. Okay, back to the slides. Okay, so like I said, events and automations is coming. We are also launching multi-repo work. Part of that is like you just, it caught something in another repo. It's not like fully out yet. And then also we are launching the ability to call the agent from anywhere. So right now you just saw it from Slack. We're launching an API. We're launching, you can do this from GitHub, from Claude, from, you know, all the places where you already work. And in case you haven't been paying attention at all for the past 13 minutes, I want you to take away one thing. In 2026, engineers don't need to write code, they need to understand impact. So please join our Postman community on Discord. We have tutorials, we have events. Like, I don't see anyone with their phones out scanning this QR code. So I'm just gonna wait until you all do that. Okay. And all right, so thank you all and have a good rest of your day. Okay. I'll take questions, yeah. Yes. It's a secret. No, the context graph, so basically yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how do you build out the context graph? Like, for example, in this, like, what is it? What sort of knowledge does it refer to?
Okay, so the context graph, we are launching a UI so that when you onboard onto, like when you start using the AI engineer, it'll use the context graph and you can onboard with it. We're launching a UI where you literally can click like connect GitHub, connect Kafka, connect your collections, you know, connect all the things that you have in your application. And then right now, there's an API that you can send a request to, and I think it's like ingest context graph. That's like the name of the request, and you just run that, and it'll basically ingest it in the backend for you. We're launching a front end for it. It's just not in prod yet. Yeah. Any other? Yep.
So I had a question about the context graph. So how does the context graph integrate with the existing AI artifacts like copilot instructions.md and so on?
So if any part of your application touches your APIs, then it'll have access to the context graph. So assuming that like Copilot touches your APIs, it'll be ingested into the context graph.
Any other questions?
All right, thanks guys.
Good job, Talia. And next up, we have Jacob Rothfuss from LibLab. Sorry if I butchered your last name.
How's everybody doing? Be a little bit more excited than that. How's everybody doing? Appreciate it. Cool.
and I'll just try not to walk too far. I already talk kind of loud, so I apologize in advance for however bad this gets. Okay. All right, let's get all connected here. Oh. All right. And does this thing change stuff for me? Am I going to have to do it manually? It does. Okay, look at that. Okay, before I introduce myself, as I'm sure you all saw, I'm curious to get to know the room a little better. So I'll ask a few questions. If you guys raise your hand if you are a startup founder. Any founders in the room? Okay, we got a few of you. Interesting, interesting. Raise your hand if you are an engineer. Okay, so that's most of the room. Raise your hand if you're a software engineer. Okay, again, most of you, I got a maybe on there. Okay, raise your hand if you work with an AI agent every day. Yeah, again, most of the room. Most of you who are software engineers probably do work with an AI agent every day. Cool, I've gotten to know you guys a little bit. Let me talk a little bit about myself. I am a senior engineer at LibLab, which was recently acquired by Postman, for those of you who may not know. LibLab is a service you can use to generate a completely custom SDK that looks human readable and is completely idiomatic for whatever language you generate it in. And it's all right, maybe some of you don't know what an SDK is. I imagine most of you do, since most of you are software engineers, but I'll cover that in case you don't later. I'm also a Longhorn. Do we have any other Longhorns in the room? All right, we got a few of you. Let's go, let's go. I'm also a former entrepreneur, so I can kind of relate to some of the guys in here who were startup founders at one point. I actually tried to start my own company. I was in Capital Factory rooms all the time, doing events just like this while I was trying to start up Real Life Data. That didn't work out. Now I'm with the Postman team, but I'm super excited to be with them because they're some of the most talented engineers I've ever worked with in my life. We have a really awesome team, so I'm really excited to be with LibLab. But working on a startup gave me a really interesting perspective and a few things I'd love to talk about with you guys real quick. I only have time for two, so we're only going to cover two of them. But the first one that I learned is you have to ship quick. Everybody in software here, I imagine you often get deadlines that are crazy and you need to ship quick. And you learn that the reason is because if you have something that people want to use, figure that out quick, make sure you get it out, and see if you should keep working on it. But if you have something that no one wants to use, get the hell out and go work on something else. The other thing that I learned was use every tool at your disposal in order to ship quickly. So this is actually something my startup had a little bit of trouble with, was we really wanted to own all of our software and our tooling, and that came back to bite us in the butt because we spent so much time just working on the software, but we never worked on the product. And that became a really big problem for us. So we should have been using tons of stuff like libraries. People have written code. You should be using those libraries. They know what they're talking about. Use no-code tools. I was actually building a no-code tool. And up until a few years ago, that was the big rage, right? No-code tools to do your coding for you. A really big one, obviously the topic of today, is external service APIs. So there's a million APIs out there. You can go get geolocation data. You can get satellite data. You can get users' Facebook data, Spotify data. You could be using it as the cornerstone of your product, or you could be enhancing your product by connecting it to the services that your customers use. So generally, no matter what, APIs should be an important part of whatever software you are building or whatever product you're building that uses software. And then finally, one of the tools that's going to surprise nobody that I put it up here is AI coding agents. I think it is safe to say that the barrier to entry for creating software has never been lower, ever, because of tools like this, and especially because of AI coding agents. And I do think that these bottom two are appropriately, for today, the most important ones on here, because you have access to any information you might need to build a product, and you have access to someone who will write all the code for you so you don't have to do it. So software is becoming all about agents and APIs. But the question I want to talk about up here is how do you make sure that your AI agent writing your code uses those APIs correctly? And when something goes wrong, it knows how to solve it, and you have good error handling so you know what's going on. How do we make sure that they use APIs correctly when you ask them to write code for your product? This is where an SDK comes in. and exactly why an SDK company like LibLab is here to talk about it, because AI agents need SDKs. I'm not saying they should have them, I'm saying they need them. Okay, so just to make sure, raise your hand if you know what an SDK is. Okay, it's most of the people in the room. I'll cover it real quick just so we can get everybody up to speed. SDKs stands for Software Development Kit. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to help. Okay, so let's actually go into an analogy here. I call it the restaurant analogy. See, restaurants are kind of like web servers. Servers being like YouTube server or Facebook server. See, you can go to a restaurant, you ask them for food, they'll come give you food, and if you want, you can eat it. But a server, you go to it and you ask for information. Let's say you go to YouTube, you say, hey, YouTube, give me a YouTube video. And they come back with a YouTube video, and if you want, you can watch it. But I can't go to a sushi restaurant and order a Big Mac, can I? So how do I know what I can order when I get to that restaurant? They give me a menu. And the menu tells me what I can order and how I can order it. And this is exactly what an API is, right? It's just what is in front of the server that tells you what it is that you can order and how you can order it. Okay, now I really love fancy sushi. I love omakase. I've been to a lot of fun places in Austin. But when you go to a fancy restaurant, fancy sushi, you get a complex menu. And this actually happens to me and my girlfriend sometimes, who is over here, watch me. When we go to a sushi restaurant, she doesn't know necessarily what all the words mean. She doesn't know what nigiri or maki is. She doesn't know what eel sauce tastes like. But I've tried all that stuff. I know what it tastes like. So we talk about the menu, and then I order for her. And this is exactly what an SDK does. It simplifies the API for you. You give it one very basic call in your code, and then it will call the API for you and make it all much, much easier, simplifying any questions that the API might ask you to answer. It'll speak the same language. To continue the analogy, it'll use the same currency when it goes to pay the bill. The idea of the SDK is to turn all the code here into a single call just like this. Now, some of you might already see, oh, I see where he's going. I know exactly why an AI agent might want to use something like this. But you might also be asking yourself, what the hell is he talking about? So let's talk about it. There's a ton of advantages to writing a good SDK, and there's a ton of stuff that you can put into a good SDK that helps take away a lot of the work that the AI needs to do whenever it's writing code for you. So I want to talk quickly about context when it comes to AI agents. Who knows what I mean when I say context when we're talking about AI? Raise your hands. Some of you. Okay, context is just all the stuff that agents need to get the job done. It is the conversation you have had. It is the question you asked. It is the other code you've given it. It is the image that you said, make my website look like this. And as you give your AI agent more context, you get less and less effective. And everyone in this room who's doing software right now, you're using AI agents, you know this. And if you don't believe me, go scan this QR code and check it out. There's some people who've done some really good work looking at this, and they've made it very clear. The more context you give, the worse it's going to get. So why does this matter? Well, let's say, oh, let me go back. I know people are looking at it. And by the way, I also have 50% max context on there. The moment you pass that line, it starts to curve down significantly. They call it the dumb zone. And you can also find that in that paper as well. So why does this matter? Well, let's say I told my AI agent, I said, hey, go use the Spotify API and return me my list of most listened to artists and make a Python application that'll do it for me. It's gonna pull the entire Spotify API. That is 10,000 lines long of stuff I do not need. It's details I don't care about, defaults I didn't need to know, and all this crap. But if I give it an optimized SDK, now it's only grabbing the things that it needs to get work done, and all of that is far more simplified and handled for it. So instead of just polluting its context, you give it only what it needs to get done, and it can be significantly more effective, and it will save you cost on tokens immediately and in the long run. That's the theory, but let me prove it. Okay? I did a little experiment before I did this presentation. I built the same application 2 times. And this is the exact prompt that I gave it. And I asked both of these AIs to build me a website that showed me Spotify's top artists and top tracks and let me interact with them. And I did it one time without an SDK. I gave it this prompt. I said, do not use an SDK. Then I gave it a liblab generated SDK. And for those of you who don't know, you can go onto Postman, you can go give us an API specification, and we'll just generate that SDK for you in about 5 seconds. So it took me 5 seconds, I gave it to the AI, I said, okay, build this app, but use this SDK. Let's look at the results real quick, because I would have done this in front of you, but that would have taken a while. This is what the no SDK one looked like. But it took me a while to get there. It took me 3 iterations, no, 4 or 5. And these are just the ones that I put up. And it had no idea what it was doing at first. It couldn't figure out authentication. It didn't understand what I was asking. And the only reason I was able to get it through was because when it asked complicated engineering questions like this, I knew the answers. I already knew exactly what I wanted it to do, and I built applications like this before. So that didn't stop me. But that might stop somebody who doesn't have the level of technical expertise that I do. Also, it switched from Python to JavaScript in the middle of me working on this, and I have no idea why, and I didn't notice it until after the fact, which was really funny. So my scorecard for this is low junior level engineer. This was pretty bad. I would never build a product off of this, and it didn't even frickin' work. So yeah, absolutely not. Okay, so let's talk about the one with the SDK. This one, across the board. This was great. This took 5 minutes, guys. I asked it. It was done. It's as good of organization as I would have made myself. The architecture was correct, and the whole entire thing worked. It was great. I would consider this what I would do, senior engineering level, absolutely. For those of you who maybe want to check me on what I've done here, please check out my GitHub. I have the thing there. It has not only the apps that I built, but also one thing that I have not shown you, and it includes the entire conversation I had with each of the AI agents. So feel free to check that out. I'll leave that up here for a couple seconds. And I'm gonna go back to a scorecard here that will kind of sum up the point that I wanna make. You guys got 3, 2, 1, we're all good, okay? Cool. So scorecard, I don't have to tell you guys, I mean, hands down, LibLab SDK won it. There's 2 things that I want you to take from this, though. Number 1 is use an SDK. Clearly use an SDK. Wherever you get it from, it will make the applications that you have your agent build for you better, hands down. But the other thing is harder to see on here, and I'm just going to tell you. Like I said before, the team we have at LibLab is incredibly talented. Every single problem that you would run into building an SDK, we have seen it already. We saw it years ago. We've built tens of thousands of SDKs. I've worked on them by hand. I've worked on them with agents, and so has everyone I've worked with. We know every problem you're going to run into before you run into it. So not only should you use an SDK, but you should generate it with LibLab. Thank you guys so much. That's all my time. I'm happy to take questions. My LinkedIn is up here, but please check out Postman. You can get a free trial of the Teams plan, and you can just go generate an SDK. And if you like it, come back. We'll take care of you. You've got a lot more than just SDKs that we'll do for you, so we'd love to get your feedback. Thank you so much. Happy for Q&A.
So I saw your graph that it's efficient on context as well, but like in addition to that, it's going to be cost, less
Yes.
tokens for sure. I was just curious in your example here, like did you do any sort of like analysis on like efficiency of context by any means that you might be able to share?
Any analysis on efficiency of context? I didn't. Obviously, if you have a 30-minute conversation, though, it's going to cost a lot. So I appreciate you mentioning that. The big thing is also token costs, and as you have a bad piece of code, the token costs will get worse. So not only is that initial conversation going to cost you a lot of money, but so will every conversation after that. Yeah.
What model do you prefer?
Right now, I'm on GPT 5.5, but I'm really also liking, for completely different reasons, GPT 5.4 mini. But if you're looking for the agent or the harness, depending on what you want to call it, I'm also on Codex. So.
I see a question over there. I love running around, pardon me, but this is kind of my favorite part because I haven't exercised today.
There you go. On the edge of my seat.
Is LibLab open source?
LibLab is not open source, no. Sorry. That's our secret sauce, unfortunately. No. We need to have like 2 or 3 mics around.
Yeah.
Just throw them, you know? Here you
Like
go,
little throwable. They do have throwable mics,
Yeah.
actually. I forgot about that.
They do.
So it seems, just from looking at it, that your definition of an SDK is essentially a layer of abstraction over the API.
Correct.
You're generating that in 5 seconds. Does it make it more difficult to troubleshoot because you don't know the internals of the SDK, you only know the attributes of the API? Because that's the problem with layers of abstraction in general.
Sure. Well, the nice thing is we're giving you an SDK that the point of it is that it's human readable, and we actually did that on purpose. So that way you can look at it and you can go, oh crap, something's wrong here. We also support custom code. So if you don't like it, change it. Next time you generate it, we'll have that in there for you as well.
Human readable is the right move.
Absolutely, yes.
Love it. Thanks. Anyone else?
One more up here.
Oh, right in front. Oh.
Is there a limitation to anything generated by LibLab? Like, do the primitives exist for every API?
Yeah, so you'll get rate limited. I'd have to look up exactly what the rate limit is, but also I think we had somebody the other day, they had an output SDK that was like 10 megabytes or maybe 60 megabytes. So you can't give me an API that's 2 million lines long that's going to take up 60 meg. Does that answer your question? I don't know. Okay.
Right on.
One more over here.
So I know you used LibLab to generate the SDK. Why don't I just have, Claude generate it for me instead?
That's a fair question, and one that we have to talk about a lot. So this is the thing that I didn't mention that I said I put into the GitHub was I did actually do one version of that app with an AI agent. So I told the AI agent, make me an SDK, because I don't want to use LibLab. I just want to make my own. So I had it made its own. And it came up okay across the board. And the problem, again, is that you give all of this context to the agent without a lot of tooling and a lot of knowledge, you end up with an SDK that isn't good. So yeah, it was mostly functional, but it didn't work. The architecture was fine. The organization was terrible. The only thing this thing did well is it did it in 15 minutes. So I would still suggest, unless you are an engineer who knows everything there is to know about SDKs, you want to generate with LibLab so you don't run into the same problems I ran into while I did this.
Sweet. Great job.
Cool.
Jacob.
Thank you guys so much.
Let's give him a hand. Next up, we have David R. from Coder.
Breaking things up here for you, Dave. I'm sorry. Oh, all right. I'll just put it down. Yeah, I can.
Hello, hello. This thing is really loud. I'm gonna try to pull it away from my mouth because my ears were starting to ring. Let's back up a little bit. Can I back this up a little bit? Is that better? Is that not quite as loud? I'll try not to talk to the talk loud. No. It's not you. It's just this thing's turned up really, really loud. All right, we're good. Are we good? Hey everyone, my name is Dave R. I'm a technical product marketing manager at Coder. That is my LinkedIn profile. Yes, that is a free QR code generated from Chrome because I'm cheap, and that's just the way it is. So I'm not going to pay for a QR code that I can have Chrome generate for me. So back in February of this year, I delivered a talk. In fact, you were there. And I made a claim, did I not? I said if 2025 was the year of the agent, 2026 is going to be the year of the security headlines, right? And so since January, is this working? Oh, come on now. Maybe I should have used your clicker. That's all right, I got it now. I just didn't. I hate technology. But anyway, here we go. Are we good now? Is it going? Come on. So since January of this year, I have counted anywhere between 35 and 40 incidents using AI, whether it's data exfiltration, data deletion, cost control overruns, right? We've all seen it, right? We've all been there. We're starting to see it bubble up, okay? So what we provide at Coder is what we call AI infrastructure. So we're going to back out of coding for a little bit, right? I know you guys are software engineers, the SDK stuff. I haven't messed with SDKs in years. Very interesting. You haven't used Postman in probably 10 years, but it's good to see that y'all are making tremendous improvements. But we're going to back out and we're going to talk about infrastructure, okay? So I did a little study on these and I found some emerging patterns. And some of those patterns were lack of operational control, limited observability into AI behavior, weak policy enforcement over data access, right? If you guys heard of Replit, that happened last year. And then, insufficient cost attribution at the user, team, workflow, and model level, right? So these are kind of the patterns that I saw in all of these 35 to 40 incidents that happened since January. We're talking 6 to 7 a month that are going down right now, okay? So what we've done is we've kind of adopted this migrate, modernize, multiply methodology. And essentially what this means is, as much as when I was a developer, I didn't want to give up my laptop. At some point, we're going to have to start getting organizational control over AI, right? So what we're recommending is get off the laptops, get out of the SaaS tools, get out of the VDIs, and start putting some organization around your developers and your AI agents. It's the only way you're going to be able to get control. Sorry, I was a developer too, I get it. But this thing is getting bigger than we are. It's moving at machine speed, and we can't have these agent endpoints that are unmanaged. It's just not practical anymore, okay? Because the speed at which it does the damage is faster and harder to catch than just a developer out there developing code, okay? The next thing is modernize. As you start to bring this under an umbrella, you govern your AI assistants, you govern your AI agents, you start putting cost controls around that. You start putting cost control limits around it, okay? Now, a lot of developers, I do AI development, right? I do a lot of vibe coding, or what we now call agent-assisted coding, or whatever they're calling it now, okay? I do a lot of it. I don't like to be restricted. So it's a fine balance between we need control, but we don't want the developer to be restricted, okay? So how do we do that, all right? So that's the modernized part of it. And then finally, multiply. If you haven't read the Spotify, 4-part Spotify blog on how they're using multi-agent right now, if you haven't done it, go read it. It's amazing. Because last year I did a talk at JFrog Swamp Up, and I talked about app modernization using AI, because I'd been in the app modern business for years. And I said, how can I use AI to modernize apps? What I said back then was kind of a vision to say, we're going to start seeing agents be specialized just like we are. Like, I can't be a doctor and a lawyer and an engineer and a choo-choo train driver. I can't be all that, okay? We have specialized people that take care of that. And so I said that this was June of last year. I said, you're going to start seeing these specialized agents. That is exactly what Spotify has done, is they have an agent that takes the requirements, reads all the documents, creates the prompt, hands it off to the next agent that does the work, that hands it off to the next agent that validates it, right? And all those have very specific contexts so that they're very narrow and they can't go wide, and they understand exactly what their job is, okay? Spotify's done a great job. Like I said, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the interview with Gustafsson, it's amazing. He's been doing coding for 30 years. He finally put down his IDE. He doesn't need it anymore. That's where it's headed. But you got to get control first. You can't just start doing it. So to understand how we do what we do, I'm just going to walk through where we came from. So we've been around since 2017, but in the last few years, we've really perfected the cloud development environment. So think of it as an agnostic, self-hosted GitHub code spaces. We're not SaaS, okay? You deploy the code control plane on your infrastructure, whether that's public cloud or private cloud. You connect it to your observability stack. You connect it to your authentication, your IDP, and you're off and running. And what you have inside that, this thing's pissing me off. Okay. So what you have inside there are templates. And these templates have three definitions. They have a where do you want it to run? They have a scripting element, what tools need to be installed so the developer can do their work, just like they would on their local laptop. And then it's underpinned with Terraform, which allows you to be repeatable and consistent with your workspaces. In other words, you don't have these unmanaged endpoints that you got a new developer comes in and they're like, okay, I need to get set up. Well, I use this. Well, I use that. Well, I use this. Well, I use that. Everybody gets consistent environments across the board. The developer logs in. They choose the template that's specific for their role. So we support role-based access control. So they pick a template for their project. They provision a workspace. It has all the source code. It has all the dev tooling. It has any connections you need on the back end. Vault. We have data analysts that are actually deploying their workspaces on GPU sets for their data people so that they can actually run their models in real time instead of having to throw it over the fence and wait a couple hours for hardware. They can just run it right there, okay? So this is where we have come from. And late in 2024, we had some very big customers come to us, including KKR, who just injected us with a lot of money this year, if y'all haven't read, something like 90 million. And they said, why, you already have figured out the infrastructure, why aren't you throwing AI in there? Because AI governance is going to be a problem. They saw it. And so our young, bright, talented engineers, including one of the VPs that was in the back there, said, we can do that. So we started, about January 2025, we started cranking it out. And what we have now is what looks like this. So now we have an agent. I think my battery's going out. Way to go, Dave. I knew I should have changed the battery. So we have an agent sitting in the control plane. Well, we also have something called an AI gateway. And what it provides is not only does it provide authentication, but it attributes the user back to the agent. So in other words, you know who logged in, who contacted the agent, what prompt they gave it, okay? And you start to get this auditability. We also provide cost controls where you can say, you can only spend this much, okay? We also have prompt auditing, which is very interesting because we have some customers that actually use this to kind of evaluate what prompts are working and what's not. So this developer is doing 10x, but this developer is only doing 5x. What is this developer doing that this one's not, right? So they started using it for prompt analytics. Say, okay, let's figure out what's working and what's not because this guy's costing us a lot more money than this one is, okay? Then we have observability on it, so everything gets streamed. We have an AI session feature in the product that at least gets you started on where did this start, and then we stream everything to Datadog, Grafana, we don't care. And what we do is we provide you the first step in the investigation of what happened, and then you dive deeper into Grafana or your Datadog or your observability stack to find out exactly what went wrong. And we're not trying to compete with them. We're just trying to give you the breadcrumbs to start following. Okay? Now, the other thing that you can do if you want, and I've got several videos on YouTube where you can actually deploy agents inside the workspace. So I have one where I deployed Kiro CLI in that workspace, and I connect with my local VS Code instance. We have a lot of developers that are actually running Coder on their laptops because they don't want to install that stuff on their laptops. So like, I'll just install it in a workspace. And then when I'm done, I blow it out. They're designed to be ephemeral. Does that make sense so far? Okay, because I didn't have a demo. I only had like 12 minutes, and I'm probably way over because I talk too much. The other thing, you'll see the gear on the right-hand side. That means it's an API call. So you can do GitHub Actions. One of the workshops that I do, we actually use Git-T in there, and we use get T actions to kick off jobs in Coder. We're working on multi-agent. In fact, Ben and I were just talking about it today, about how you can spin up multi-agents inside each workspace to do a job, hand it off, and then shut it all down, because you don't need that. You don't need those resources running. Just shut it down, all right? So these are the things that we're going to. So we're thinking of this in an infrastructure way, in an AI governance way, right? Because it's exciting. I love AI, dude. I'm tearing it up. But it's getting out of hand. So finally, let's talk about one last thing, which is your AI DLC. And so we've identified 5 things that we feel like your AI DLC execution layer must have. And the first one is what I talked about earlier, your centralized agent orchestration. I know Cursor is good. I've used it. I know Kiro's good. I've used it. And in small enclaves of people, that's not a problem. But when it starts to scale, you have a lot of endpoints to manage. I'm not kicking Cursor. I'm not kicking them. I'm saying they're good. I've seen them. But for large enterprises, this starts to be a problem because you don't know what those agents are doing. You don't know where they're going. You don't know what data they're exfiltrating. You don't know what they're hitting. And that's a problem for large companies. The second one, I'm going to throw this clicker out the window here in a minute. Workspace isolation by phase. So here's the thing. You got different teams working, right? They don't all need the same workspace. You may want them to have different access roles depending on what they're working on. So you set up your workspaces according to that team with the right roles, the right access, not too much, not too little, right? I swear, I'm swearing. Policy is code. We back everything with Terraform. Why? I'm gonna trip myself up here. We back everything with Terraform. Why? Well, I worked at HashiCorp, and I used Terraform at VMware when I was there because it's repeatable and consistent, right? That's the big claim to fame with Terraform. You can deploy the same thing over and over and over again and get the same result, right? So what we encourage is policy is code. Define your tooling in your workspaces. Make sure it's consistent for all your developers. That's much easier to manage than trying to manage 500 endpoints or 1,000 or 10,000. You need an LLM gateway at the network layer. Some people use light LLM. We have an LLM gateway, right? You want every call from the agent to the model recorded. You got to be able to track it, because if something goes wrong and your entire database gets deleted, you want to know who to fire, right? I know that was a bad example, but seriously. And then finally, I'll be glad when this is over. All right. One of the things that Spotify did was, they took the human out of the loop. And that's great. If you work for a company that's got Spotify resources, fantastic, knock yourselves out. But not everybody's there. Like the AT&Ts of the world, the Exxon Mobils of the world, they don't have a large engineering crew to just worry about the infrastructure. They're too busy worried about trying to innovate. So what we encourage is do the first 4 things, make sure you have a human in the loop. Verify, verify, verify. And as that trust starts to expand, start to add in your agents, start to add a little more automation, start to do a little more stuff. And I think that bodes well with, for example, Postman and LibLab, right? Which I didn't even expect to have anything to do with y'all. But honestly, that's what they're doing, is they're saying, we're going to generate this for you, but that doesn't mean you just can't look, that you can't go verify. You should always verify. So as you start your AI journey, and I have a whole talk track on just the AI journey, go small, eat the elephant, one bite at a time, make sure there's a human in the loop, and as that trust builds, then you can move a little faster. And isn't that the way it always is with the technology? You always start slow and move faster. We are open source. We also have premium features, but we are open source. And we have a community who is really, really big. In fact, we have a marketing team that just deals with our community because it's grown so much. Let me get out of the way. And in fact, my buddy Ben back there in the very back, he is in charge of our DevRel team. And I'm working with him on some workshops we're going to be doing, not just about Coder, because that gets boring after a while, but actually how we're going to run multi-agent and how would we do it with Coder, right? We're really working on some exciting stuff because we see these opportunities for companies who don't have the Spotify resources to say, we can get up and running and actually start to do this, right? So that's our community. And what I didn't show you, did everybody get that wanted it? And what I didn't show you is this. That is my LinkedIn profile. You don't get to apply twice. That's my LinkedIn profile. So if you guys want to connect with me, I encourage you to do so. I've had a lot of people connect with me, and the reason I like it is because I hear ideas, like hit me up on LinkedIn and they're saying, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, honestly, I haven't thought about that yet. That's pretty cool, right? Or, hey, you want to collaborate on this? I would love to. I don't have the time right now, but I would love to. So I'd love to hear from y'all. I'd love to find out what y'all are doing. I just love the interaction, which is why I love to do this. So I went way over, I'm sure, and I'm sorry. And if anybody has any questions, too bad. No, I'm serious. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Gordy. No, I don't.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't. That's good, though, because I'm actually kind of in lead of our competitive intel team. I'm kind of the only one. And so that's interesting that you brought that up. Are they British? No. Anybody here British, are they? I'm sorry. If I'm kidding. I'm just playing. No, but I'll look it up. Gordy, that's interesting. Do they do like these workspaces where they have these ephemeral environments and really? Interesting. I wonder if it's a standalone product or something you can kind of incorporate into your job, into your pipeline. It's a SaaS product. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we kind of started to catch on, is especially in the EU when they opened up the EU office last year, is because they are so locked down by the government controls that they couldn't use SaaS. A lot of them couldn't use SaaS. We do a lot of government contracts because why? They can't use SaaS. It's got to be on-prem, right? So we're the easiest product to get deployed on-prem and just start using it. Anybody else? Come on, somebody. Not you, Barrett. You don't get to ask any questions. You ask questions. You ran out of questions. You're done. Anybody
You're
else?
the not you guy. There's always one.
There's always one. I've known Barrett for 12 years, 13 years. He's still as ugly as ever.
You're the native Austin guy, huh?
Oh, I was the bigger bully.
This is a great presentation. Really impressive. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
give him
it.
a hand.
Y'all connect with me.
And next up, our final speaker, Clement Menchev from Posthog. Let's go.
I won't be like him and drop it. I'll let it go. Go ahead, Greg.
You got it?
Standing on the shoulders of giants have to.
And there's the earpiece. There's the button.
That's right.
And then this should work to click.
No, I'm not gonna be clicking. Not gonna take that risk after seeing Dave deal with that. Let's mirror the entire screen. Alrighty. All right. Let's get this going. So I'm Clement from Posthog. And how many of you guys have heard of Posthog? All right. We got some fans in the room. So we're a little bit of everything, an SDK, a self-driving agent, and everything in between, analytics platform, among other things. My question after seeing all these presentations today, which were fantastic, by the way, LibLab, Postman, Dave from Coder, is like, well, can't do this because that you can't, call these APIs haphazardly. You need an SDK, or like can't just like change APIs like that. Well, why not? Like, why not? We live in this age now where all of a sudden, I think we have an unprecedented opportunity to just kind of let things build themselves and manifest in the best way they can as products. And the way to really build a kick-ass product, I think, is really about putting all of this engineering capability to solve all these problems, right? Like, instead of really thinking about it, well, I just need another tool that is gonna kind of constrain me in some way, I would really encourage to just go as fast as you can, as automated as you can, use the best tooling out there. Among other things, the recent AI tools are just incredible. You have, I don't know, Pylon that is doing support tickets for you. You have Incident.io that's self-healing some errors that it captures. You have Postman code, which I'll demo in a little bit, with a small demo that I built for myself, that drives your product like a product editor, basically the era of self-driving products. And basically, the tools of the trade that I can really see that make sense to me are some agent frameworks. I'm a big fan of Mastra, is what I've used in my demo. Vercel just released Eve earlier, like last week or something like that. Native to the Vercel platform, cannot run it on other platforms. Cloudflare, another local company here. I don't know if there's a representative from Cloudflare in the room, but I think they've done an outstanding job also to be able to handle anyone's workloads, and just unrestricted, whatever you can throw at it, it's gonna run and scale with a Cloudflare worker and a KV. So PulseHog and PulseHog code, look, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to tell you to use PulseHog. In fact, use whatever you want. But if you need observability, traces, feature flags, all tied to the same user ID and session ID, there's literally just like the most no-brainer tool to use. And I think it speaks for itself for the people that have already used it. And hence why I chose it. And some lightweight front ends. I, for one, used to also be a startup founder, and in the age where I could finally build front ends and yet another Next.js app or React app that I get to move around the div, around the screen. I don't do that anymore. I appreciate lightweight front ends. Just in my demo, I have a Telegram bot, and same thing, I know a lot of people are building functionality through iMessage. Just throw some questions at your favorite chatbot and let it generate you a UI, let it generate you some markdown. Dave, by the way, I have in my demo, my Telegram bot generate me QR codes, so it is free with an SDK. So yeah, without going any further on this, I kind of want to show you some of this stuff. I call this a relevant app. And what's a relevant app for me is a Telegram bot that I can ask who's playing at the World Cup tonight. Call me the Polymarket API so that you can tell me the odds so that I know who to bet for. And then if my friends want to jump in on the betting, generate me like a little QR code so that they can join in the fun. And then collect all that observability, create some endpoints. Why not? Why not have a self-enriching, self-extending API? And collect all this information through PulseHog for convenience. And with that, I'll go on to the demo. So in this demo, no code will be generated, no redeploys will happen, and for the love of God, no Git and no GitHub is gonna be part of any of the stack. So this self-extending API is part of that workers KV, like just key value pair straight up database on Cloudflare. And we're gonna show how it's gonna create itself a new endpoint. We're gonna see what it looks like under the hood with some of the pulse log observability and see what it looks like. So here's my Telegram bot. What's up? Who's playing tonight? We can say, who is playing the World Cup tomorrow? And we have USA versus Bosnia. Shout out US men's national team, round of 32. What are the odds that USMNT wins? So now it's gonna call the Polymarket API. Polymarket, okay, just USA, okay, hold on. USA win odds, Polymarket. All right, so maybe we'll try it with another game. Spain win odds, Polymarket. All right, so demo curse broken. Polymarket odds, Spain 74% implied probability. Start a new or create a new betting pool for a Polymarket bet. Generate a QR code. See if it'll do it. So it'll call another tool. And again, this is my Mastra agent. Okay, boom. All right, cool. So Spain versus Austria. Like if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a page where you can participate in my Polymarket betting order. And check this out. It's created itself a new /bet/Spain versus Austria who wins. I can add my name to it, lock my pick. If you guys do it, you'll see your name live pop up in a little bit. But what's going on behind the hood? So this Telegram bot is this Mastra agent that I was talking about. Mastra is a framework created by the TypeScript team. Huge shout out to the Mastra team. Big fan of all of their work. It lives on this Cloudflare worker right here, which is also part of actually several agents in my architecture that I deploy as Cloudflare workers. Here is some of the KV that I'm alluding to, showing some of these endpoints, and you can see what they look like. This one that we just created, bet Spain versus Austria who wins. This is an API endpoint. This is what it looks like. And I believe, again, with some guardrails, I agree with everything that came out of Talia's talk, from LibLab and Coder as well. But why not have as much as possible, build enough capability for people to be shipping as much as they need to ship. Like if these endpoints need to be created dynamically, then so be it. Every endpoint, and when I talk about guardrails, is now behind a feature flag. So let me refresh these feature flags. So this newest one is 2 minutes ago, bet Spain versus Austria who wins. So here's one guardrail. All right, your agent can now, or your API can self-extend, right? Well, what if, this other user runs into this functionality, you don't know what your AI is doing? Will ship behind a feature flag. Boom, toggle on off from a control plane. Same thing, use feature flags, whichever platform you want to host them on, or roll them up your own. And as far as AI observability, same thing. PulseLog offers a just delightful tool to use, so I can see which tools have been called, what the output message from the AI looks like as well, and should I need to investigate or have some deeper observability into how my agent is performing, I'm free to do so, and free to do so over this beautiful, delightful UI through our MCP server, or whichever modality, including an AI chat that I can ask, hey, what's going on with my observability? How many times has my betting tool been called by my agent, and so on. And with that, I believe that's most of what I wanted to show. There's really no reason to not make use of some of these custom events also that you're able to capture during agent execution. Just like anything else that's been built in commercial software in the last 20 years, there's no reason why you couldn't sprinkle enough information gathering, custom event capture, little breadcrumbs of information that could really help you understand how your users are using your product, and less so what you can and cannot do and should and shouldn't do as a developer. I believe as a developer, you should just feel free to express yourself as much as you can, build the greatest, most delightful and exceptional product you can, and use the best tooling. And, Pulsag, again, shout out to my employer. You can use any tools that fulfill the same product development ideology. After all, the goal is really to build the best product that you can. We used to be a place where you can use the feature flags that I just showed, the logs, the AI observability and traces. And the reality is that all of that is just becoming extremely automated. I built this entire application in Pulsar code, which I'll show a snippet in a second. In the same way that you use your favorite harness, you can use our MCP and integrations for your agent to be creating these feature flags, to be collecting this observability. So it's really an end-to-end way to deploy new features and really just let them deploy themselves. So here it is, this incredible product editor of sorts. It's built on top of Claude Code, and it has allowed me to really understand what I'm building. And again, like, whether I give it some documentation or not, the most important part is that it has access to the user's usage all the way downstream. So it has access to the creation aspect and access to all the way down to like user interactions. And even better, it has this incredible inbox, which has like a scouting agent that was like, yo, I found an error in your code. You should probably, deploy this PR. I've done all the work for you. I was like, great, that's perfect, because I have a demo in a little bit. It would suck if maybe some of those bets don't show up. And I guess it'll find another error right after this. But the best part about this is that it takes all these skills that so many of the great products around have built. So like, I use the Cloudflare skills so that I can have the harness just deploy straight into the Cloudflare ecosystem between the worker and the KV store. Some MCP servers, same thing, Cloudflare. Shout out to Postman. I installed the server, haven't really used it, but I will. And with that, I think this is all I wanted to show you guys. I think we live in an unprecedented time where it's more about just like having the creative freedom to technically express yourself in all your technical depth and understanding of the subject matter and technical excellence, all the while to take risks and just have fun building whatever is next and whatever is going to, really wow your users and make the difference between you and your competitors.
Let's go.
Yeah, any questions?
questions? I see you. Nice shirt too, by the way.
This is the World Cup shirt. I took it to the World Cup, actually. I was at the game.
Slight flex there.
Full saga at the World Cup.
Hi. My question is regarding post-hog. Earlier in Coder, they mentioned that they had guardrails for their AI agent usage. Do you have something similar for post-hog?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, PulseHog manages a lot of data from different users, right? Like if, one user has access to another user's data, that's pretty catastrophic. Like there's no reason why that should ever be allowed. It goes against every principle. Among other guardrails that have to do with limitations, like anything AI, I think LibLab mentioned it's always good to like limit some of the interaction. So for instance, some of these scouting agents that are uncovering errors, like they can only run for so long, right? And you as the de facto owner of the harness, you kind of set some of these ground rules like, hey, you can only run once an hour to find out if there's been errors or to scout some of the user's information. Also, there's one of the most popular features of PulseHog is the session replay, which if you're familiar, you get to see what your user sees when they log into your application. There was a time in technology where that was, the Facebook's pixel that is tracking you and all this. And I can't believe they have my IP address in their backend. And it's like, well, there's a reason. First of all, like this is truly the only way to, in my personal opinion, again, not tied to my employer, this is the only way to truly build an exceptional product where you get to know your user so intimately that you can predict what the next step for them is. And when we talk about guardrails, again, no shortage of requirement for technical excellence. Like, yes, don't, especially if you're building on some of these platforms, excuse me, follow any rule or best practices that have to do with, like rate limit APIs if that's a concern for load. Use obviously the authentication methodologies. Certify certain calls, like be very, rotate your keys or so on, but always push for like just what the most frictionless version of your application is.
That's cool. And following up on that, on those same guardrails, when you're giving it the prompt to start building everything out, does it take stuff like latency and caching with Redis into account, or do you have to specify all that in the context like any AI agent?
It actually asks me some of that information. So like you mentioned some technologies of like a stack choice when I'm programming. So it would sometimes ask me, and I could actually even do a super quick live demo and just kind of ask it, let's add Redis, or what would it take to add Redis to the core Hono.js API, which is the API of choice that I'm using. It's a JavaScript framework that I really enjoy. Ask me some questions. And it's typically really good at giving me several steps of reasoning. Be like, hey, I noticed that you are asking me a question about Redis. Are you familiar with the so-and-so? And let's see what it would say. And let me zoom in here a little bit. I also I have it running on Opus 4.8 Max, which maybe I should have dropped from Max down to like high or something. Because right now it's gonna like really go through the entire depth of software engineering to figure out why it should or shouldn't include Redis with the service. Yeah, I mean, if you have to burn tokens to learn why to not add Redis to your API, then so be it. I think I do have some thoughts on inference costs, and short version of what it takes on Cloudflare workers, you can't use a normal TCP Redis client. So it's one of two paths. Upstash Redis over REST. Love the work of Upstash, great managed service. Or TCP Redis reached via Cloudflare's Connect sockets. The plumbing itself is small, the real decisions are what it's there for. And then here it is, like the little UI, ooh, we don't like UIs. But what do you want Redis to actually do here? Pick any. Atomic pull counters, global shared cache, rate limiting, leaderboards. So it's gonna ask me these several questions here. Which worker? Stats API only, both workers. Provider, do you want it managed service on Upstash? Bring your own TCP. KV posture, do you complement or replace? And then I submit basically this form. So it is, as a harness, Postdoc code does include a lot of these guardrails where it in fact won't just go and burn your tokens and, you know, create a bunch of markdown files and be like, ha, here's the gotcha. You approved this, human. It's more, think of it more of a product editor and less of a code editor or something like that. I hope I answered your questions. Once I have a microphone in my hand or on my face, I tend to talk a lot.
Great questions. Thank you. Anyone else?
Please.
You couldn't be more hidden.
Sorry. Yeah, when you're looking at the user's data on their UI, are you transparent to them and let them know you're there looking to try to troubleshoot something, or are you just on the back end trying to figure out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's actually goes to, again, a few of the guardrails and best practices. So there's GDPR compliance, right? There's no reason to ever be unethical with your own users. If as a product and company, you do not respect your users to the level of which you would ask them consent to share, then, you know, you probably have pretty toxic relationships with your customers and your users. So in fact, when that information is collected with PostHog or other modalities, there's usually a consent that's required from the user. So oftentimes you get it in the form of a little pop-up that says, hey, we use third-party tools, or hey, by the way, we use this native SDK. Your data does not leave, for instance, in the case of PostHog, data does not leave PostHog. PostHog has never, and I can confidently say will never be selling people's data. Like that's not, it goes against like fundamental values of, well, being a decent human to begin with. But yeah, I think just having that rapport and understanding between the user and the service provider is essential. And again, best practices, engineering excellence, and just building the best product that you can just often requires that intimate relationship between you and your users and customer.
Great job, Clint. Is that?
Hey, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the PostHog team is using these tools internally to make the PostHog product better.
Yeah, I mean, PostHog is dog-fooded to oblivion, basically, if I may, use this phrase. I think PostHog's biggest user is PostHog. The application is heavily loaded and tested. You can see a lot of these tools that I have here are like alphas and betas. Like I'm feature flagged obviously into the most unstable features that haven't yet made the product. So anything that gets released into GA has already gone through extensive usage internally, and noted like there is some of this recursive self-improvement that's going on with the models. Basically, once we like pulsehog.com has the pulsehog JS SDK in, and then the harness has the pulsehog MCP in, and it can see again the direct relationship between the building aspect and the downstream user interactions and how they correlate. It's able to really map those two in such a fantastic way that it could build extremely capable features. Now, any new feature that comes out of Pulsehog comes out of direct need. There's no feature that is just, hey, you know what's a good idea to have? You know, product tours is one of them, where that was requested back in the day in, you know, ancient times. That was 6 months ago in AI years, that users requested that there would be a product tour on the front end, overlaying the front end so that it can navigate their downstream users into some functionality of interest, like explain how to toggle buttons or change languages or something. Now, as an SDK provider, obviously input from the users is essential, but when the team reviewed how the users are really using, and by users we mean how developers and builders are building on top of this functionality, they quickly concluded that that's not really something that we can support long term, just because of the customizability requirement, internationalization. Just overall, any feature that you release is gonna live for however long, you know, years. And at this point, you know, AI years is basically, it's like dog years. You multiply it by like 100 or something, like 1 month equals 1 year or something. So the reality is, once you release something, you definitely have to make sure you support it. And anything that Pulsehog releases is pretty seriously tied into the ecosystem. Again, all this, you can see these IDs, they reference a user ID, so it knows that it's me on the Telegram app. I'm the only user on this Telegram bot. You guys are welcome to join in, but it's going to tie it to this user ID. It's going to instantiate a session ID where you can review, like, let's say a screen or like a session replay. If it's a front end, if it's a lightweight front end, like the Telegram app, it'll just capture some custom events of interest, something like the AI response sent or the bet opened, which is also a tool call, but I've just also included a custom event and with a name and some kind of option in the payload. But anyway, so just to kind of wrap up this Yap sesh, there's a lot of these qualified features that once they've made it to the Pulsehog product, you can more or less be sure that they've already passed a decent load and quality check, reliability, and a decent amount of rigor that has proven itself valuable. Otherwise, it's most likely wouldn't make it to GA. Like, a lot of features have suffered this fate. All righty.
Amazing job. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's give him a hand.
Thank you, Postman, for the invite.
Okay, I'm just going to say a few final words. Just again, a huge thanks for all of you coming and your engagement and great questions. There's a table of swag over there. If you didn't already get some, would welcome you to take them. We have custom-made Austin shirts, Texas shirts really, and some socks, a duck, And also tons of pizza left. So if anyone wants to take some home, no shame in your game, go ahead and go for it. Hope to see you again when we have one in Austin. These are my colleagues who are based in Austin. That's John Banning, Sachin Khalsa, imported from New York City. Don't hate him for that. You can tell, actually. No, love you. Okay, and so that's all I got. Give yourselves a hand for showing up. Thank you so much.